And I will introduce myself, and by myself, um, uh, myself, Elise, and BetterMynd. So I lead our marketing practice here. And that means I spend a lot of time with our partners thinking about how to help them bring awareness for their services to their students. We call that campus promotion. So I really enjoyed working with the Gonzaga team to pull together this story over the past year and how they have done that in a really powerful way. So just a little bit about BetterMynd. We partner with over 200 institutions of all kinds and like to think of ourselves as a collective, a learning collective, a community. So glad you could join us here today. This is what we do. You'll hear more about this through the Gonzaga story, but I know sometimes it can be easy to not quite realize what does this Better Mind and various providers do. So individual counseling, that's 15-minute scheduled online therapy, a support line that's open 24/7, telepsychiatry, and well-being workshops, which are psychoeducational workshops also held um, live and online. It's what we do. And a little context, we'll kind of I'll thread this into a lot of what we're going to cover today, but why what Better Mind does matters right now. And this is really the golden thread to retention and persistence um, is meeting the individualized needs of every student. It's an individual path to graduation, and the support um, that each student needs looks different. So CCMH calls that range of care when you think about online therapy or counseling. And I pulled just for context Gonzaga's averages and range of care, and we'll get into that more here. But just to say, everyone needs something that is unique to them. And that is how Better Mind structures all that we do. So we are unique in approaching this work through a lens that is focused on reducing any kind of waste of services, resources, and best meeting the needs of each of those students. And that's how we do that. So I hope this framing helps the story we're going to tell make even more sense. Um, and I will turn it over now to the team at Gonzaga. So why don't we go in the order of the slide? Why not? Kylie, we will start with you. Tell us who you are, what you do on campus, and one way that you are going to take care of yourself over the summer break.
Hey everyone, my name's Kylie Pivas. I'm she, her pronouns. I'm the director of our Office of Health Promotion. That is our public health office on campus. So I get to collaborate with our teams in leading assessment work as well as health education and working with student leaders who are leading health promotion programs on campus for both undergraduate and graduate students at Gonzaga. Summer is my favorite season. I love being warm. So one way that I'll take care of myself is getting outdoors. I like to kayak with my family. So making sure to experience the lakes around the Spokane, Washington area around the summer is what I'm looking forward to.
Beautiful. Jennifer, how about you?
Thank you, Elise. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Fountain. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Dean of Wellbeing and Flourishing. And I really love introducing myself because I think I have the best title on the planet. And essentially, my position focuses on the students' overall health, safety, and success outside of the classroom. We blend our support services, policy oversight, and campus culture. We integrate academic support components. It's a little different position or a little different aspect about my position at Gonzaga as we include tutoring and coaching, advising, and disability access into our overall student well-being strategy. I have oversight of our behavior intervention team, threat assessment, student conduct, and essentially clinical and non-clinical services. So we advocate and architect the student experience in that it is one that complements what they're doing in the classroom and really is embedded in 8 dimensions of well-being. It's fun work.
That's wonderful. And how are you going to take care of yourself this summer?
How am I going to
One
take care of
way,
myself
one
this
way.
summer? I'm going to read Like read for pleasure, not academic, not research,
Mm.
but read some fun books. I have a list of like 11 already.
Yes, read for
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah. Mhm.
That is wonderful. Charmaine, how about you?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charmaine Adams. I am the Assistant Dean for Student Health, Counseling, and Wellness. So I work alongside Jennifer and I oversee our Office of Health Promotions, our counseling office, and our health office. So, kind of the clinical and public health arm of our pillar. I'm excited to be here. This is a small kind of smattering of the amazing team on our campus that has helped support BetterMynd. I would be remiss if I didn't include our housing and res life people, our counseling staff, our health staff, our public safety staff, our multicultural clubs. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but there has been such a multifaceted, multidisciplinary team that has brought this onto this campus. And so I'm excited that you get to meet a few of us. But please, if you're on this call and you are part of those other disciplines and would like to be connected to anybody on our team to hear their perspective of the implementation, we are happy to do that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And Adrian. Oh, I almost forgot to hold you accountable to the how you're going to take care of yourself one way this summer.
Yes, mine is a mushing of Kylie and Jennifer's. I'm going to read outside.
Is it read while kayaking?
I'm not well kayaking, but I have created a beautiful little patio oasis spot
Mm.
outside. And so, amongst all of my herbs and plants and lavender and basil, and I'm just going to sit out there with a book and enjoy the sunshine.
Oh, that sounds lovely. That's beautiful. Okay, Adrian.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrian Reyes, and I am the Director of Case Management here, which is the office that I get to lead and work with a great team of case managers who help support students in a non-clinical setting. And so, I think one of the ways that I am going to take care of myself this summer, I have recently gotten back into my teenage self and gotten into vinyl records,
Oh,
and
music.
have been listening to music. I've always loved music, but I embrace all um, formats. So vinyl records is the most recent, but I still have my cassette tapes. I still have CDs that I purchase, and so that I have been doing a lot of that, and I will continue to do that. I even have a record player set up in my office here so I can listen to records. So
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, I'm inspired by all of the, and hopefully everyone else who's on here today can answer for themselves one way that they are going to take good care of themselves this summer. So, well, wonderful. Let's keep moving on here, and we'll get into the story that has been this past year. And in working together to craft it, we land on it 6 parts. So we're going to tell it to you in 6 parts, beginning with what was on campus, defining quality, looking at how Better Mind works in practice, some of the all important integration, and then measuring and defining success and where we are headed for this next academic year, which is coming so fast. I want to slow the summer down. So it'll be here before we know it. So we'll start with part one here, which was the reality on campus, who Gonzaga was missing, why a different door was needed. And I will start here with Jennifer. Can you let us know what were the conversations that were happening on campus that led you to even explore a partner for teletherapy?
Yeah, Elise, thank you. When I had arrived in August of 2023, Adrian arrived shortly after, and then Charmaine shortly arrived after that. And so I can say collectively, when we all arrived, we had an empty office of case management and we had an empty office of health promotion. And the stopgap plan was to identify an online teletherapy and telehealth. Um, Organization that could fill those gaps because we literally had no staff working in the office. And so we had worked with a different provider that was really pretty challenging for us and for our students. And so we were pretty early looking for other options, talking with other universities and identifying what they were utilizing. I would say the other thing I experienced really early is that we were burning our staff out. So our clinicians were on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our case managers also had an on-call role. And so it became very obvious very quickly that we needed to identify a platform that could not replace the great services that our clinicians on campus offer. We weren't looking for a replacement, but we were definitely um, looking for a complement to those services. So I would say those were the main things. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And Adrian, I'm going to have you follow up with the perspective. So, Jennifer, you've been there 3-ish years. That was 2023. Adrian, is it 20 years? I'm trying to remember what you said exactly, but you have really been with this community and campus for a long time.
I
So, what were
yeah.
you seeing and experiencing from your, in your seat?
Right. Yeah, that is correct. So, in one shape or form, I've been connected to Gonzaga as an undergrad, and then as an employee, and then started my graduate program here as well, and uh, left and came back, as Jennifer mentioned, about 3 years ago. In August, it'll be 3 years for this particular role. And so I've seen, where we had what seemed like no services when I was a student here. And we probably
Mm,
did, but I wasn't aware of them. I wasn't involved in that area before, and so just seeing the changes that have happened over the years that I've been connected to Gonzaga, which has actually have been um, I've been connected to Gonzaga since 1989, so I'm giving away my age here, but in one shape or form, I've been connected to Gonzaga since 1989, and so as a student, just knowing that there was services available and a different level, and of course now with the technology available for students, and of course going through COVID, and knowing that
mm,
students needed something that they could access. And I know in conversations with Jennifer and Charmaine and others that really students were looking for something that they could utilize after hours or in complement, or um, I know we'll talk about this later, but we also see graduate students. We have a lot of online graduate students who
mm.
need to utilize our services, whether it's case management or counseling as well. And so I think that was a big part of it as well, in terms of making sure that we had students had access to services at their disposal.
Yes, meeting the need of every student is increasingly complex at institutions that are expanding graduate programs, online programs, right? It's not just more of the on-campus residential student experience. And yet it is the same office is called upon to provide that support. So I think that's
Right.
I really appreciate you highlighting that here. Um, Charmaine, going back to some of the who perhaps you were not seeing or reaching, do you want to speak to some of what you came into this work and this search for partnership knowing about the students that you were wanting to see and serve?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think every institution does access to their clinical services a little bit differently. So some institutions will accept health insurance, others will be a fee model, some will have students that can opt in. We are on a wellness fee model. And so the students who pay the wellness fee are our full-time students who are on some kind of on-ground program. And so what the wellness fee provides them access to is the health center, is the counseling center, center, and a couple other spaces on campus like the gym and some other spaces. So the students who did not have access to our Health and Counseling Center primarily were going to be our graduate students in 100% online classes. And so we are looking to expand our graduate programs at Gonzaga. And so those students just did not have access to these services because they did not pay the wellness fee. Um, we also had additional off-campus learners that getting to campus for appointments, potentially they could, if they were in the state of Washington, they could come to telehealth appointments, but if they were out of the state of Washington, our counselors are only licensed in Washington. And then our students who either had work or class or internships all day and needed an evening or weekend option. So our clinicians here are amazing. I think that Jennifer and I's favorite part of our job is getting to talk about how amazing our teams are and how proud we are of the work that they do. But there were just some limitations in the way that our fee structure is and in the way that our hours are situated, that there were certain students on our campus that did not have access to our counseling center. Additionally, we have been asked by our International Scholars Office to ensure that we have services in multiple languages for our students. And so what we have learned is that it's not just language as a barrier, it's cultural nuance that's a barrier. And so even though we have translation services, we still have many students that speak a variety of different languages here on campus that do not feel like the counseling center is an accessible place for them to get services because culturally that's just not part of how they would seek services. So having an online platform that had a variety of languages available to support service students where they could engage in services from the privacy of their own dorm room was really important. And then racial and social identities. I think as most universities, we are constricted by personnel budgets on how many therapists we can have. So, of course, every time we go to hire a therapist or a case manager or somebody in our Office of Health Promotions, we're looking for the voice that potentially isn't there, the identity that potentially isn't there to make sure that our students feel represented. But there's only so many personnel lines we can have. So having an online option that provided a variety of additional identities that potentially are not represented here by our full-time staff or our interns or our residents was a really important piece too. So I think all of those together made it, like Jennifer said, we're not trying to replace any services here. We're just looking for the gaps, looking at the limitations that are placed on us most of the time structurally, whether that's through budget or space, and trying to figure out a way to make sure all students are getting access to services.
Thank you, Charmaine. There is a tremendous amount of creativity. I really mean that. Like, sort of even expanding the pie thinking, right? Like, it's like, how can we not shrink it or think about slicing it? But we can make this bigger or better. And just tying back to one of the things that you highlighted, Jennifer, was that meeting after hours need, for example, is wonderful for students. But if we draw upon our full-time staff to do that, that actually lowers job satisfaction. It doesn't increase it, right? Nobody wants to be on call like that. It's very challenging. So that's an example of like expanding the pie. And again, yes, so I love the overview that gave there. This for me highlights some of what we have learned across those 200 campuses we support. And so I want to just call out three different stats that came to mind when we were building this, which is we have one partner, a private liberal arts college in New York, who has tremendous utilization of their on-campus center. Nearly a third of the campus has some contact with the center each year. And yet they found that 65% or 67 rather percent of the students that used BetterMynd services had no prior contact with the center. Like just a wonderful example of what we call the hidden student for all, Charmaine, of the reasons that you listed above. Just that kind of like, whoa, the pie is bigger. Very similarly, a large public university, also in New York, ran a survey. They just wanted to validate, right, in that kind of exploratory stage, let's just really be sure that we are meeting a need that students have. I sent this to a very specific subset of students, which was their Black male students. And this is what they heard back. Like overwhelmingly like, yes, if you offer something free, I would probably use it. Am I currently utilizing something? Only 15%. And then the last year was just a large public university, one of our partners in Florida shifted their models. They're working with us where they had a referral. So it was referred through the counseling center and then shifted the model and made it what we call open access. So again, you could be sitting in your room, just go straight to bettermind.com. No one else knows, like that tremendous privacy. And 8 times the number of students that had registered through the center. It's a hidden student. So I loved seeing this reflected in your stories and learnings too. Okay, I'm going to move us on here to part two, which was defining quality. And I have to say, for anyone on the call here, or the meeting here today, so much good in this because if you are considering a partnership, or I think this is like one of the most important parts of aligning the team. And so, Charmaine, I'm gonna ask you here if you can tell us you're bravely embarking on this mission to find a new partner. There's management. You're justifying the change, justifying the cost, the partner itself, the vetting process. What mattered most? Like that rank order and share with us.
Yeah, and I think we could probably have a whole conversation about how to roll out a new third-party platform on a college campus. I think there was a lot of growth and learning for me in this project, and as a newerish assistant dean on campus, this was actually my first large-scale project that I embarked on here for Gonzaga. And so I think the primary piece that I had in mind the whole time is that I wanted true all-campus buy-in for this. I think our previous provider that we used before, one of the mistakes was that we had the product purchased and then just kind of handed it off to the folks that would be referring students to it, which was housing, campus security, counseling, case management, and just said refer students. And they were not part of the process to select it. They were not able to share what was important to them, and the student utilization experience wasn't evaluated. And so when we went into wanting to figure out what was most important. Buy-in from our campus partners was important. Is this something that you would actually refer a student to use if you had a student in front of you that needed the help? And then second was students, if someone referred this to you for help, is this easy enough to navigate that you would be able to actually engage with it and follow through? Because as much as we tell our students, we don't want the first time you use this to be in crisis. We absolutely want you to master how to use this when you're in a good headspace, when you have the ability to play around with it a little bit. A lot of our students hop onto this at the moment they need it. And we know that in that moment, they have some tunnel vision, they're stressed out, navigating through all these different hoops and sign-ins and different pieces are just roadblocks for them and not something they're going to be able to do. So um, we were able to set up a bunch of different focus groups to evaluate. And so one of the focus groups I set up was our non-clinical staff. So put together a focus group of our case managers, our office health promotion, our housing, our campus security, and had BetterMynd give a presentation specifically to those non-clinicians. Pitch your platform to them. Say how they are going to be able to use it as people that are not clinicians, not clinical background. How are they going to talk to students about this platform? What is the student experience going to be? Then we had BetterMynd actually give a presentation directly to students. There was no professional staff in that meeting. And we were like, students, like, go at it. You tell them what works, what doesn't work. You tell them what you like, what you don't like. And it was so interesting because our students came back and was just like, oh, wow, like those salespeople were so nice, or they had all these things. And like, they're just not used to being pitched to like professional staff are. And so our students had just some really insightful things and were really wonderful to have involved. And then, of course, the other two groups that we had was our clinical team. So I had BetterMynd pitch directly to our health and counselors and our health team to say, are you going to be good partners for my clinical staff? And then finally had them pitch to our VPs, which is historically, BetterMynd has told me, the only people they pitch to. Most universities only ask them to give a pitch to the VPs, and they never actually have to give a pitch to the people who are using the product on a day-to-day basis, which blows my mind. And no wonder it's they aren't adopted. So we it was a really wonderful process. Got to get to know a lot of great people on campus, and I think made it so that when we rolled out BetterMynd, people already knew and had some buy-in. And so we were really excited about all the different pieces, whether that was the 24-hour support, which really spoke to our housing and residence life and campus security, the care coordination, which really spoke to our clinical team, and then the wide engagement for our Office of Health Promotions and case management.
Charmaine, there's so many good sound bites in that. I thank you for the authenticity too and of all that you did. And it makes me think of a saying that I learned from a therapist as a clinician. I hope this is, which is you went slow to go fast. Go slow to go fast.
Yeah.
And I could just uh, I'm appreciating the patience that you had to exhibit in doing all of that scheduling and engagement and cross-functional work. And I'm sure there are days where you're like, please let me schedule this meeting with you. This is for you. Please don't make this difficult. And you're just
Yeah.
the patience and the going slow so that the program could actually have the impact on the staff, the community, and the students that it's intended to have. So I think that would be summarized as leadership. So thank you. That's really wonderful. Transitioning us here to part three in BetterMynd in practice, how it launched, what it looked like in this first year. Jennifer, I'm curious if we can see a summary here of the goals synthesized, some of how you even purchased. You were part of the flexibility in place, right? You started with a bucket of sessions and calls, and then each of the semesters were able to supplement that. But what did the launch reveal that you weren't expecting?
Absolutely. I think we had all been influenced and affected by our previous provider, for better or for worse. And so I know for myself and Charmaine, especially, we were pretty skeptical going into this because you're absolutely right. Budgets are shrinking, resources are not expanding, the work is not getting any easier. And so when we make a case to make a large purchase like this, we really have to be confident and understand what the return will be and how we're going to measure that return. But I think from the very beginning, what Charmaine and I have tried to build is that mental health is no longer a siloed service. This service we provide cannot happen in one building for a certain amount of hours on a certain day. And so we frame it at mental health as essential for student success. It's essential for our campus climate, and it's essential for the reputation of Gonzaga. And we really wanted BetterMynd to fold right into that with us and be part of our brand. And to be able to access the data that is so accessible through BetterMynd, I got to tell you, like this data has the opportunity to influence the academic calendar, to influence the way faculty show up online and their expectations that they have of students who are online. It's affecting student academic progression, and it's even affecting our leave of absence policy. So those were the things that were really important to me, and I was able to really grab onto. Other tangential things were a focus on collegiate mental health, the personalization, racial and social identities that mirror those of our students. Those were all present there as well. And so, yeah, that's what I
Thank
would
you.
offer. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And to give a paint a bit of a picture for folks who may not understand the partnership process with this, we start with scoping utilization and really not making assumptions. So you know a lot more about your campus than we do. We're going to bring all that we know across our 200 partner collective, but we don't make assumptions. The flexibility of buying sessions, not a subscription, right, which is sort of a use it or lose it, allows for that flexibility to say, we're going to start here and we're going to learn. And we did. And the rollover to all sessions and calls roll over. So if you have anything left from this academic year, it just supports the next academic year. Um, Thinking really thoughtfully about how students will access this through their phones and just direct through BetterMynd, as well as all of the collaboration, coalition building, um, and alignment through campus promotion. And then Jennifer, like you just highlighted, all of the data that helps to support and highlight learnings, resourcing, programming, actual change. So I thought it might be helpful to map that out in sequence. Here's just a couple of fun screenshots. I will say I think you all have done such a wonderful job and at doing timely communications. So this is like a more recent one from this, back in May, which was just to say, was it May 12th was maybe your last, I think, official day of the academic year? I'm almost certain it was, but this was the day before. So this was May 11th, and just like another great example of how you are speaking to students and letting them know, like, this doesn't go away this summer, right? Like, our office may be closed, but you can continue to be supported throughout the season. So, and this on the website, again, some of the ways that you're just surfacing this, making this available to students. So, a couple of things by the numbers here. So looking at the number of students that registered for the service, session utility, anything you'd comment on here, Jennifer? I know you did a nice job talking about things that surprised you, but um,
Yeah, I think I don't know if we have this data right now, but where we'll be going is really looking at like, is there a reduction
mm,
in crisis escalation over time? So BetterMynd is effective if a student mental health improves at rates that are comparable or I would say comparable to in-person care. And so really looking at those, I mean, the students, those numbers around students who are accessing 24-hour, 7-day a week crisis is really important
mm,
to me, like things around faster access, the broader outreach, fewer structural barriers to entry. We
mm,
know that we're serving, at least traditionally, students who really value access, urgency, and speed of response. And unfortunately, our university systems, like our brick and mortar, we used to say, aren't really at the same place our students are. And these online options really are there for our students. We like to say also that it's an extension of Gonzaga and the resources that we offer students. And then in some other marketing materials, we say this is completely independent of Gonzaga. And so if you're worried about
mm.
confidentiality or you're worried about sharing something that may follow you, just understand that this is really an independent person who isn't affiliated necessarily with Gonzaga, which I think is an important piece.
Yes, that is, I love you highlighting that barrier, which it
Yeah.
could come from family, culture, just
Yeah.
lived experience for the student.
Mm.
Um, that makes a lot of sense. And again, just painting a bit of a picture, this is just an example university, but when Jennifer and Charmaine talk about the data, this is an actual example of the BetterMynd admin dashboard. And the kinds of information that you can look at, whether it's registrations, the sessions, the credits, usage, all of that. But it is granular indeed. I'll say that. Um, I think I'm going to pivot over here to Adrian and Charmaine, and I'm going to have you both answer the same question, which is who showed up? So, you expanded access. Tell us about these learnings.
Yeah, I'll go first,
Go first.
Charmaine.
I didn't make that clear at all. I told
Um,
two people. Thanks,
right.
Adrian.
Well, and I think just in terms of one of the previous slides in regards to partnerships, I think one thing I wanted to highlight was that as was mentioned, it's been a great partnership because we essentially, in the non-clinical case management area, we are promoting counseling services as well as BetterMynd almost to every student who comes through, right? And
Mm,
whether they ask for it, that's another thing. But it's like we want to promote that these are services that are available to each student, and so sometimes it is as we mentioned before, it's those students who um, we like to say that our Gonzaga students are like most typical college students, they are busy. They're busy with lots of things, whether it be academics or extracurriculars or, and clubs and organizations or work. And so having BetterMynd as a partner has been great to offer to those students who maybe can't get in during regular business hours. And so we will tell students that, hey, this is an option for you. Um, and I think that students appreciate that. When I know that have called BetterMynd with a student in the past and just um, walking them through how easily it is to access, right? And so I think students appreciate that, and so I think it's students who are working with us in case management and who might be wanting that extra piece of counseling since we don't do the counseling here in our office, but I know that they have um, that ability to access either our counselors or BetterMynd counselors as well.
Anything, Charmaine, or anything that stood out to you in particular here from who showed up?
Yeah, so I think we were happy to see many of the 24-hour calls were actually initiated by RD staff, RA staff, or campus security in connection with a student. I
Wonderful.
think, like many campuses, we kind of wrestle with what to do with those students after hours that are exhibiting some high-risk behaviors, but our non-clinical staff aren't there to
Mm,
distinguish, is this student safe enough to stay on campus,
yeah.
or do they need to be transported someplace else? And I think when Jennifer and I got here, the default was they need to be transported someplace else. And what we were finding is a lot of our students that probably with a couple of coping skills, somebody to talk
Mm,
to, kind of somebody with a little bit more clinical nuance to piece through that and say, actually, this student is okay to stay the night in the dorms, but needs to see a counselor first thing in the morning. And that's what our
mhm,
RD staff and our campus security staff needed to hear because they don't have the skills to make that call. And that's not their job to make that call. So I think we were pleasantly surprised that a lot of our after hours calls were used in that way. And that was one of the things we asked BetterMynd is, can these folks call and say, I need a risk assessment, not I need a counseling session, not I need you to
yes.
chat with a student. It's very specific. I need a risk assessment. And by the end of this phone call, I need to know if the student's safe enough to
Yes.
stay in the dorms for the night. So that was one really wonderful piece that we've seen in this partnership,
Mm,
and our D staff and campus security have been really pleased with that collaboration. Our graduate students, the way we manage our credit policy is every student gets 5 credits. And then when they reach the end of that 5 credits, they get an email from me that says, hey, looks like you've been using the service. We're so glad that you like it. I want to let you know that we have case management and counseling on campus if you want to pivot to on-campus services. If not, could you let me know what you're hoping, if you're wanting more credits, what you're hoping to continue to do? And 100% of our students that asked for more than 5 credits were online graduate students that did not
wow.
have access to our counseling center, which is amazing. So those are students that
Mm.
got back to me and were like, I would actually love to come to the counseling center if I wasn't in a different state or if I wasn't someplace else. Like, this is actually the only access to mental health care that I
Mm,
have through Gonzaga. And so we were able to get them additional credits and allow them to continue to use the support. Our counselors also use it for students when we're going on holiday break. So many of our students study abroad, go home for winter break, go home for summer break. And again, our counselors' license are restricted to the state of Washington. And so when our students go home to California or Idaho or anywhere across the US, unfortunately, they can't stay with the counselor here at the counseling center. So many of our counselors would refer students to BetterMynd to use so that BetterMynd could match them with a counselor in their their home state to continue doing the work on a short-term basis. And then when they come back to campus, they'd be transferred back to our on-campus. Um, and then we had some really good conversations with a variety of campus partners about how to get this information out in front of students, some that were successful and some that were not very successful, and that's okay too. I think that we've had a lot of really great success with our faculty and staff building it into their syllabi. We have had some staff that have asked for us to kind of make some ready-made Canvas announcements that they can just pop up in their Canvas every couple weeks to say, hey, remember, we have this resource for you, something they don't even have to think about. Jennifer and I have kind of gone on our roadshow and talked to all sorts of deans and faculty and folks and just let them know about this product. I think one place that we're still working though is getting it embedded in our Canvas, which we have seen other institutions be successful in doing, and that is just one place where we haven't gotten a ton of traction. But I think that we've had some wins, we've had some frustrations, but I think that's the realistic nature of being on a college campus with folks with a variety of priorities. So I think we've had some really great campus partners that have helped us reach a variety of students, and we have still some that are in the works that we'll continue working on.
I love the honesty. And I would highlight too the trust, the going slow to build the trust so that Adrian is inclined to like surface those that your RAs know about the number, want to feel good about the number, understand how it works, like all of that, faculty members highlighting that, regularly, all of that is just uh, demonstrates the trust built, right? That doesn't happen if the trust hasn't been built. So that's wonderful. I'm going to bring us to our last couple of topics here. One of them so important around the integration. And Kylie, I want to bring your voice into the mix here with health promotion because it's such an important part about around the awareness. So, how did you approach? We've got this new service. Okay, I'm on board. How am I going to integrate it?
Thank you. I think you and Charmaine embedding trust into the conversation is a huge essential piece of that. And we know students are going to share their personal experience, and the power of their own story and what that service utilization looks like is going to influence other students' choices in that matter. So
Mm,
it was important for us to learn from our peer health educators, to listen to other student leaders on campus, especially members in like our student body association or other academic schools that maybe don't have as much utilization of campus health services, to see what's important to you and what was your experience when using the dashboard, trying to start that teletherapy option. So we really following after Dr. Adams' lead with making sure that we were testing this with students, making sure that we were using them for the marketing and promotion in the fall, and to understand what students were going to be responsive to. And then all of our A's are trained to be noticers, and Adrian and I facilitated some mental health first aid training for them last
mm,
summer. And so they got this introduction into what does that referral piece look like, and giving students the options of how they use BetterMynd in complement to on-campus services. So it was a mix of relying on our student leaders and making sure we were understanding what their experience was so that we could come back to the BetterMynd team and communicate any challenges that we're having, as well as utilizing their expertise in that social media and marketing efforts, and then just highlighting and embedding this in our skills-based in-person trainings with mental health first aid, question, persuade, refer, where we're traditionally having these conversations of mental health
yes.
support, and making sure that people are having the opportunity to ask questions about what the experience is really like, to raise their hesitations, and to make sure that we're capturing those success stories, both from students and the faculty and staff that are supporting them.
Yeah, thank you, Kylie. It's a really nice summary of I'm picturing you in so many different like spaces in front of so many different groups. Um, and the consistency and the clarity, right? The clarity of where to go, what to do. So much work across this whole team. Um, and to bring it home in terms of success, I'm hearing success in a lot of the ways that you all are describing the past year. But Jennifer, I'm going to bring it back to you as the person who ultimately needs to justify your budget, um, the opportunity cost of all that has been described, right? Even all of that time that Kylie spent in front of residents' life. And how are you defining institutional ROI?
Yeah, that is the question. Um, So a couple of things that we know, teletherapy improves access and outcomes for students across all populations, and especially those of our historically marginalized, underserved student groups. Um, we know that students report high satisfaction when they feel supported, connected, and comfortable. And so offering more ways for students to feel that connection is really important to us. One like banner statement I always go back to is that online therapy or online services should improve and not strain the broader counseling system that we have. And so we talked in this call a little bit about burnout. I'm always thinking about our providers and our clinicians. The work and the student cases that they hold is very big and very intense. And so, how can we bring more joy, bring a sense of well-being and wellness to our clinicians? And this is definitely a way that helps spread the load and spread the hard work. We're looking at retention and persistence rates for teletherapy users. I think that's just interesting to know how it's impacting our online learners for sure. And then also, how many first-time sessions are students engaging in through teletherapy? Is it more than they would be if they were walking into the center, or is it less? Of course, we're looking at GPA stabilization and improvement, academic progression, cost per student served, but also cost per improved outcome. And so as students are learning more to manage their stress, as RAs, resident assistants, and resident directors are learning how to support students in the stress, that definitely has a cost to it. And so, you know, aside from looking at interventions and hospitalizations, how do we really balance that with the well-being of our staff, and especially those who are what I kind of consider first responders, but those who are there in the moment
Yes.
when things are really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I will highlight here just some of the like concrete numbers that I know, Jennifer, you have brought into that. So just the students that have been reached through this, we've touched on the utilization goal. I think the graduate student piece is really powerful online, those online graduate students. And even that last number, which is looking at the number of students, we got the exact dates that the campus was closed and how many, and these are successful, so they actually happened. We always know there's reschedules and cancellations, but this is 19 hours
Yeah.
of mental health support that happened when the campus was closed. Really powerful.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps more powerful than any number is the actual student voice. And I couldn't fit all that I wished I could here, but just a single slide. And what speaks to me, so this is feedback, anonymized, but from students who have used the service with BetterMynd. And I'm just so aware of the apprehension, like, and these are students who pushed through that. So, like, imagine how many more just continue, Kylie, to need the encouragement of seeing what's available, right? Just the visibility. It's like, how many times am I reminded that this support exists? It might be five different ways that until I finally can like overcome the internal barriers. So this means so much to us internally as a team as well. And I love seeing the range of care. So again, these are attended sessions just like with CCMH and every college campus in the US, the most common session is one. But Charmaine, I think of those emails that you sent, and there is a student who received basically biweekly therapy. And that is like 23 sessions across the school year. And I think that that is incredibly powerful because that changed that this past year for them. I don't know who they are. It's anonymized, but that changed their life. And that's an example of meeting them as an individual. So just love seeing that how concrete that is. Okay, just to wrap us up here, where are we headed? And Kylie, I want to come back to you and just can you tell us about one or two activities or things that you're thinking about from that big picture that's going to continue to embed and integrate this into campus culture?
Yes, we're excited to continue reaching out to graduate students
Mm.
and the percentage of students that we know had a high utilization of BetterMynd and maybe don't have traditional access to the counseling center during that 8 to 5 traditional operating hours. The other thing that I love about the dashboard is it gives us some insight into what students are struggling with. So from last year, we know that most students reported they were seeking counseling for anxiety and academic distress. So that helps us
Mm.
complement services with workshops and with peer health educator led training on campus so that we can focus on those topic specific skills building that will be helpful for students.
Yes, I love that. And that's a perfect segue into the last piece we have here that we're incredibly excited about at BetterMind. Jennifer, this speaks to your desire to also understand like clinical improvement of those seeking services. And so the embedding of the CCMHC caps, which is what you use in your center, now available to all of our BetterMind partners is going to be incredibly powerful. It's an apples to apples look at who's coming into the center, who's using services online, and then what are the insights that we can glean. And a couple examples here. Kylie, you just teed this up by listing some of the insights from last year and just the concerns students self-identified. The CCAPs will provide a much richer layer of insight. So it could be that you learn that the students who are struggling with disordered eating are utilizing BetterMind at a much higher rate. Ah, what are ways that across the entire campus we can bring additional workshops, safe spaces, education around this so that it is not, the topic itself is not hidden. The student isn't hidden, the topic isn't hidden, or maybe it's that the in-person counseling center, like your CCAPS data is showing that problem alcohol use is higher there compared to the students online. Interesting, just another insight into who we're serving. Perhaps there's a different kind of training or focus, Charmaine, you could bring to the clinicians, knowing that this is a really particularly common topic for those coming into the center. Okay, let's like do some professional development around that. Um, to wrap us up, if you want more insights from our student survey that is so centered on this hidden student, grab the QR code here. Alex, you could probably drop the link into, but it complements all that the Gonzaga team shared here. Um, and it is so important for the work that you are doing, that BetterMind is doing. And if you are like the Gonzaga team was a year ago, exploring services, trying to figure out if a provider like BetterMind might be a good complement. You can just respond to the poll with a quick yes, no, or nothing if you're just learning. But let us know and we will get back to you. And I know we are pretty much right at time here. So if there's anything, Alex or others that wanted to surface in the chat, which I was not paying attention to,
Yeah, at least let me jump in. We have one question,
please.
and it's
Here, I'll put this in.
for the Gonzaga team. Sean, I don't know if you're still here and you want to ask it directly, or I can surface it.
No, I'm still here, and I thank you everybody for sharing your experiences. I noticed that there were several instances in which you added on more sessions. I worry due to budget constraints that our university would not be able to do that, even if students demonstrated that they had no alternative. So my question is, after year more of service, do you have any plans to amend your service and session policy or process given potential financial constraints? And then I also wanted to clarify, can students who travel abroad, whether as international students or on study abroad, access BetterMynd?
Yeah. Jennifer, do you want me to answer that one? Yeah, so I think as Jennifer noted, when we first started in this, we were really conservative about the number of sessions. Like we were aiming for any students to log on and use this platform. We were not completely sold that students were going to be interested. And so BetterMind gave us their recommendation on how many sessions based on peer institutions they thought we'd need. And we were like, no way. So we actually bought far fewer, but because of the recommendation that they provided us, we earmarked some funds in case we did need to buy additional sessions. So when we came back and said, hey, we're actually hitting December, that is when we, after our first semester, bought the first bunch of additional sessions. We were able to pull from that earmarked money that we had already pulled. And then again, we had to add additional sessions in March to get us through the summer till our contract renews in August. And then to your study abroad question, students can use the 24/7 line studying abroad because those are considered kind of non-clinical crisis management type services. And so for all of our study abroad students, we kind of put that into the study abroad orientation to utilize that service while they're abroad.
That's great. Thank you so much, everybody.
And Charmaine, wouldn't you say too that you and Tara Hiller, our Director of Counseling Services, are somewhat not tracking, I don't like that word, but noticing habits of students. And if it is an online, or if it is a student on campus who is only utilizing BetterMind, I think you've all done some outreach to say, hey, is it possible to transition you on campus or work to understand their needs a little more?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And just have a better understanding, yeah, of if it's the reasons they're utilizing BetterMind. Is it insurance issues that they can't find a provider in the community? Are they not able to come into the clinic? Is case management a good? So we do some problem solving also around the utilization if we're finding that just to manage our utilization rates of BetterMind.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Yep.
It's wonderful. Well, we're at 4:01, so I should probably be a good host here and close us out here. The team has generously offered to make their contact information available, and I love higher ed professionals because they are so collaborative. And so really, please reach out, network, make good connections here to support what you're doing to support your campuses this coming academic year. And I do want to thank the whole Gonzaga team. It is a privilege and a joy to work with you. I truly mean that, and I wish you good rest and recharging this summer as you head into the academic year ahead. So, thank you all. Take
Thank you.
care.
Thanks, Louise.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everybody.